Today, we're digging into Ben Horowitz's Guide to Leadership. But let's be clear, this is not your typical feel-good success story. Nope. This is a manual for pure survival, a guide for those brutal, really uncomfortable moments when everything is just falling apart. So, let's start with what most business books get wrong. I mean, they all have this missing chapter, right? It's the most important one, the one that's supposed to tell you what to do after your perfect, brilliant plan has totally and completely imploded. Think about it. Most guides, they teach you how to set up for success, right? How to grow, how to scale. But what do you do when you're staring down a situation where there are no good options? You know, when every single choice is basically between bad and worse. Well, that is exactly where this book lives and breathes. And that really gets to the fundamental difference here. On one side, you've got your typical business playbook, the whole good to great journey. But this book? This is a manual for those moments that are, let's face it, inevitable. The bad to worse times. We're talking layoffs, failed products, that crippling self-doubt. Because as Horowitz argues, it's in those fires that real leadership is truly forged. Okay, so this brings us right to the core concept of the entire book. It's a really simple but man-profound idea that Horowitz calls the struggle. And trust me, this is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. In this one idea, it just completely flips the script on what we think it means to be a successful leader. See, success isn't about having all the answers. Not even close. It's all about how you behave when you have no answers at all. So what does that really mean? It means leadership isn't about avoiding problems. It's not about trying to create some perfect, frictionless company where nothing ever goes wrong. No, it's about learning to operate with constant, gut-wrenching uncertainty and making those tough calls even when your stomach is just tied in knots. In other words, the struggle, that is the job. And Horowitz is super blunt about this. He basically says, look, nobody is born a perfect CEO. It just doesn't happen. You are almost always learning on the job, and you're going to make mistakes, a lot of them. So what separates the great leaders from everyone else? It's not perfection. It's resilience. It's the ability to get back up after you've been knocked flat on your back. Okay, so embracing the struggle is one thing, but how do you actually survive it? Well, this is where Horowitz translates that philosophy into a really concrete set of principles. Think of it as a practical guide for getting through the storm. And these 4 principles, they basically form the new playbook for when the original playbook sails. Now, some of these might feel a little counterintuitive at first, but trust me, they are incredibly powerful when things really start to go sideways. Let's break a couple of them down. This first one highlights a super critical trade-off. Yeah, of course, metrics and revenue, they're vital. You need them. But Horowitz argues that managing the human element, trust, culture, morale, that's what ultimately ensures your long-term survival. I mean, think about it. When the numbers are in the toilet, a strong culture might be the only thing you have left. Now, this next one, this might be the toughest principle of all to follow. Sugarcoating reality, especially when you have to deliver bad news, it just absolutely destroys your credibility. It might feel easier in the moment, for sure, but that kind of brutal, radical honesty, that's the only real foundation for building genuine trust. And finally, there's this really tough reality. The higher you climb, the more isolated you become. Simple as that. There are just fewer and fewer people you can really confide in. And recognizing that and actively managing that loneliness, that's not a sign of weakness. It's a fundamental, unavoidable part of the job. So, okay, we've got the principles, but how do these ideas actually apply in the real world? I mean, whether you're a CEO or not. Let's get really practical here. The key takeaway here is pretty simple. Survival is a shared responsibility. It's not just on one person. It requires leaders to be transparent, for sure. It requires organizations to actually build resilience into their culture. And it requires employees to understand that, hey, turbulence is just part of the process of building something that's meant to last. So all of this, it kind of raises a really crucial question. Why does this unflinching, let's be honest, often uncomfortable view of leadership matter so much, especially right now? Well, because this isn't just some book for Silicon Valley founders. Not at all. Its lessons are for anyone who is navigating the sheer chaos of growth. That could be a startup staring down its very first crisis, or even a mid-level manager just trying to lead their team through a period of deep uncertainty. Ultimately, what this book does is prepare you for the realities that pretty much all other business guides just ignore. This is the manual for getting through the tough stuff, the layoffs, the failed product launches, those moments of total burnout. You know, the hard things that truly define a leader's journey. And that brings us to our final, kind of provocative thought here. This isn't about abstract theory. It's not about what you might do someday in the future. No, it's a direct challenge. It's about looking at your own situation right now and asking yourself, what is the hard, uncomfortable, but absolutely necessary thing that needs to get done today?